areas are anticipated to experience more change. The third criteria is simply the age of the existing plan, and if you had an older plan, then you're of a higher priority to update. The fourth criteria was looking to ascribe some priority to those areas that had villages identified in the OCP that would not be captured by those centers and corridor areas. So these would be things like Cordova Bay Village or Capital Bay Village or Strawberry Vale Village, which could definitely benefit from some planning. I think, broadly speaking, with respect to these village areas, these are probably areas that are best addressed through a local area planning exercise anyways, as oftentimes they're really integral to the fabric of the community. The last criteria that was used was looking at what percentage of the local area was covered off in a center and corridor plan. So for certain local areas like Cordova Bay, they are not covered off at all in a local area plan, where other areas like Quadra would receive a fair amount of planning attention through some of the center and corridor planning initiatives. So in your report, you'll see the scoring that was arrived at there, and there was a ranking that was derived, and that's what you see on the left side. And it ranked the local areas from 1 to 10 in terms of a priority for updating. A couple of modifications were made to that, really with the idea to align best with other initiatives as best as possible. The first change that was made was to the Gordon Head local area plan, which was moved up in the ranking to follow on two key initiatives: the Shelburne Valley Action Plan, which addressed approximately 11% of the Gordon Head area, but really laid the groundwork for some future planning work that could occur adjacent to the Shelburne Valley Action Plan boundary areas. And then secondly, the UVic Campus Plan, which is in process right now. So there's really some key opportunities there to build on some of those prior processes in the Gordon Head Local Area Plan update. The second modification that was made was the Cary Local Area Plan was moved down to priority 3, and that was with the intention of following on the Uptown Douglas Corridor Plan, which would address a fairly high change area of the Cary neighborhood. It's really relatively small percentage-wise, but it's an area of the neighborhood that's a fairly undergoing significant development pressures right now. And the idea that the Cary Local Area Plan could build on some of the work done through the Uptown Douglas Corridor Plan. With respect to the center and corridor planning, the priorities that were assigned there, as I mentioned, are largely established right now through processes that are underway. So the Shelburne Valley Action Plan is nearing completion. The Uptown Douglas Corridor project is being initiated. And then also the Tilcombe Gorge Village Action Plan was completed in 2005. So really the decision here is whether to prioritize the Quadra Corridor or the Royal Oak Broadmead area first. And in this instance, Quadra Corridor is placed in a higher priority because there's a significant amount more of development activity there as opposed to the Royal Oak Broadmead area. Finally, the prioritization of policy initiatives, as I mentioned, that would be determined through Council's strategic planning process. There are a number of initiatives that have been previously identified, and those may need to be prioritized through subsequent strategic planning processes. So the recommendation here is that, Mayor, okay. The recommendation here is that Council endorse the local area plan and center priorities as presented above, and that's embedded within the work plan options that you have before you to consider. So the last item, and that's a part of this presentation, is the local area planning program terms of reference. And essentially this is really about laying out a standardized approach for updating the local area plans, with the idea that if there's a standardized approach, there's greater consistency amongst plans, and there's efficiency in terms of the process that's being used to develop plans. So we're not making up a new process every time we go about updating a local area plan. What's proposed in the terms of local area planning program terms of reference is a 18-month process for updating the plans, but really a 12-month active public process. So really responding to some some of those concerns around the community in terms of having a quicker planning process. One of the I guess consequences of this quicker process is we may not be able to do a completely comprehensive update of the plan, and the intention would be to focus the lion's share of effort on 2 to 3 main issues. And the idea is that those issues will be determined through early public consultation and background research. Similar to the Uptown Douglas Corridor Plan, a key component of the local area planning going forward will be the integration of the public participation policy in the IAP2 spectrum of public participation. So that's really looking to use that framework to really structure all public engagement. So the recommendation here is to endorse the local area planning program terms of reference. And in conclusion, the overall staff recommendation is to endorse those 2 items. Firstly, the community planning work plan option 1, which is the balanced focus, which allocates resources and sets priorities for local area planning, center and corridor plans and policy initiatives. And then secondly, to endorse the local area planning program terms of reference. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think, as we did with Mr. Dara, I think we'll go to the members of the gallery who have waited very, very, very patiently to provide us with their feedback. So why don't I hand it over to you, and we look forward to your comments.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. My name is John Schmuck. I live at 1180 Rock Street, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Quadra-Cedardale Community Association. Again, our concern is we want to compress these timelines. We're very happy to be participating in the Douglas Corridor Review. Local area plans, some of these are 20 years old. They contain data from the 1996 census. Surely there is a way that a quick refresh can be done in some way on all the plans simultaneously, at least to refresh the demographics and probably a few other things. So all of them could be updated quickly just for demographics and something else. Quadra Corridor study, we don't want to wait 2 years after Douglas Corridor starts. We believe that should be started no later than 1 year after Douglas starts. Call it stream 3.5. But you can start the other one before the other one completes. You can learn from some of the things that are going on from the first one. And again, staff resources for Saanich planning, we highly agree with the PTED committee that extra resources be assigned to this and give planning the manpower they need to get this done expeditiously. Thank you.
No, I'm happy to be.
I'll let finish. I just want to get one to speak.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if you had something you wanted to make it. So
Thank you.
You're up first when it's back to council. Okay. Sorry, please, go
Sure,
ahead.
Sure.
You've waited long enough.
Oh, yes. Hello, Martin Simmons, 1620 Christmas Avenue. I live in the Shelburne Valley. I'm shocked to see that plan is already completed to draft or something like that. Because don't take this the wrong way, but it's kind of playing like roulette with Saanich, like what have they about to do that they haven't told anyone they're doing. So I look forward to being able to see all these plans and see how they fit together, because I remember the 2008 review when you had all these different plans for the Shelburne Valley, and you said, here's this plan A, here's this plan B, here's this plan C, and I thought they were all terrible. They were like, Ugly Bridge A, Ugly Bridge B, Ugly Bridge C, which would you like? So I live in the Shelburne Valley, so very close to Shelburne. I think it's a community. It's walkable almost the whole distance, and yet I get the impression you're treating it kind of like the Uptown Douglas corridor. It's not really a corridor. You keep wanting to turn it into a highway, whereas the part of Shelburne that's down in Victoria, which is like a residential street, is what I think you should be aiming for, with a few lumps of community alone. Because right now it keeps getting bigger and bigger traffic, and it's unpleasant to walk across the road to the other side of Shelburne, which is like the definition of Douglas. Douglas is somewhere where you have to drive to cross the road east-west. Shelburne isn't that bad yet. So please, your premises for the Shelburne Valley Action Plan, I think we'd like a bit more input, and I think your premise on it is flawed. But in a good way, you mean well. But it's a valley, it's a very large watershed. Falkirk Creek is still, I'm shocked to find out, the least ruined stream in the area. So please, treat it like a community, not as a prospective highway for the future. Okay? Thank you very much. And I'm sure there's more people from the Mount Common Community Station raring to say stuff.
Oh, maybe.
Marlene Bergstrom, 1735 Kingsbury Crescent, President, Mount Tomei Community Association. I'd like to thank Cam and all the planning and other departments and staff for their hard work and contribution for this community planning work plan report. I know that they put a lot of effort into it, and as a community association, we appreciated that they started a few years ago to consult with us. I would like just to make a few brief comments for your consideration when choosing the appropriate option. As noted in the report on page 3, it's something struck out at me being part of this Valley Action Plan. It states that the Shelburne Valley Action Plan is an example of a centered corridor planning study. Therefore, it seems unjust that the Shelburne Local Area Plan be bypassed as being listed to be put forward as a plan. Through all of the Shelburne Valley Action Plan consultation process, it was noted that the plan or study would somehow be integrated into the Shelburne Valley Local Area Plan. But as this plan and study has not even been brought forward to you for final approval, we need to make sure that the Shelburne Valley Local Area Plan be a priority in any options that are chosen. If you are going to choose option 1 and put Gordon Head plan, being the oldest, which is understandably at the top, then it should be followed by the Shelburne Local Area Plan, which is one of the second oldest plans, and that it is on the same corridor. What I'm seeing a little bit here is that it's piecemealed with not having the Shelburne Valley Local Area Plan be included. If you want to have it, use your resources to its maximum capacity, you would want to have that whole corridor and all the plans follow together at the same time. So I think it's very important that you contemplate this decision. It was, you know, the Shelburne Valley Action Plan has not been finalized, so how can you possibly approve this without noting what it finally is going to be? And we don't even know what those minor updates are going to be yet either. And I just feel that we're lost if we don't include, you're not including one of the major plans that there is right now. And again, the terms of reference, the outline and the process seem that they would be in order to follow, and Cam and I talked about that, and we do appreciate the time and effort and stuff that you put into it. But I have to stress that I am very disappointed that the Shelburne Local Area Plan is not part of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, one more time. My name is Robert James Wixon. See how that shows up in minutes. I live 2836 Inez Drive most days, maybe not tonight. This is a really onerous task that you've undertaken, trying to herd the cats, so to speak, and figure out how to get this all done all at once. And as we said earlier tonight, resources are extremely lacking for this process, and we need to find resources for this to get it done faster. It's very clear from hearing from the Shelburne Action folks and looking back at our own local area plan, because when I first got involved with GPCA back in 1998, the first things we did were looked at our local area plan and reviewed our governance bylaws. Now, we've reviewed the governance bylaws at least 3 times since then. Not a problem, got it done. Did workshops, figured out what our visions were and all kinds of stuff. But for the local area plan, the local action plan is yet to be completed. And it was passed by council in 2005. And the only reason it got that far is because we went out and spent $26,000 of our own money to do a design shred that fed into the local area action plan. So resources are needed but you also need to enable your communities. And you enable your communities by giving them the task to do. You don't rely on the professionals all the time, because the professionals are a resource, and they're a great resource, because you can ask them any question, they have answers, whether you like them or not. So I think enabling the communities is an answer to getting this done much more quickly. But you need good staff that know how to do that. Talk to us. We'll help you figure it out. We've done it before. We did it most recently with our community garden. It got done. Staff was a very great resource for that, but they were not the ones leading the way. Just a quick question. Is this going to go to public hearing, or is this going to just get approved tonight and that'll be it? I think there might be another step in the process that might be worthwhile, and allow a little bit more time, because I got this full document. Now, I know we've done this for a couple of years and we knew generally where we're going, but I didn't really have a good idea of the complexity of this until I spent the weekend reading this whole document. And it took a weekend for me to do it. Nobody else on my board has done that yet. And to be fair, they should have a chance. And we don't seem to have that chance if it gets decided tonight. It seems to me there's a couple of wrinkles to work out anyway, so maybe it should go back for a bit more work. As Councillor Dermott has said a number of times tonight, we really have to focus on the regional values that we decided upon with the regional growth strategy. And that has to be built in. Sustainability issues have to be clearly identified, and certainly we have all the right words in this document. We want to really see the meat behind the words, and really see the action on the ground. How are we going to address SOVs, single occupancy automobiles, if we build a brand new interchange that's dedicated to them in Mackenzie and Admirals? How are we going to address that? Because that, if that particular interchange gets built the way it is, being talked about, it's going to undo the whole regional growth strategy completely. It'll throw it out the window, and I'll feel I've wasted 20 years of my life. There's nothing wrong with the community association seeking independent advice on these things. When we did our local area plan in 1999-2000, we didn't just have staff write us a document and say, oh yeah, that looks good, we'll change this period over here and put a comma over here. We sent it off to U Vic and Deborah Kern and spent a month with her going through it line by line and fixed it. There's still a couple of things to do on it. One of them is around the affordable housing piece, but we'll get to that. Who's going to be choosing the committee members? I'm very curious about that. Is it going to be a staff person? So is it going to be their friends, people that they know will say yes? Or will it be opposing viewpoints? When I work on creating a board for the GCA, I look for people that don't think like I do. I want the other half. I want the car drivers to come in and say, I want speed limits raised, not speed limits lowered. So we can have a proper, robust discussion. So who's going to choose the members of this committee? And are they going to be afraid to choose people that disagree?
I know you can see that flashing light there.
Yeah, I'm going on it.
All right.
This is a good step forward. Staff should be congratulated for getting this far. More resources are needed to quicken the pace. Don't forget to ask even those questions which you may not consider are areas of concern. We are members of the same team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Councillor, staff, Ken McGrath, 1044 Inverness Road. I'm looking at planning, and to me planning is the big picture. And what I think what we need to do is focus on basically our major centers, which is where density should go, which is where the people can go, where it's walkable, livable communities. We need to reduce and eliminate the infill, because infill, as Mr. Haynes commented earlier, it's not just the greenhouse gases from cars, it's the congestion on the roads that cars create by putting more cars out into what they did in the previous years create car-oriented development with cul-de-sacs, dead ends, where you don't have transit. And in fact, actually, it's very difficult to ever have good transit here in this region because we don't have that north, south, east, west grid system of roads. We are all going nowhere, 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 which has all been car-oriented development. So basically focusing on our major centers, not so much the corridors, but the major centers, that's where you want to start putting the people. Not just keep spreading them out all within the urban containment boundary. There's still years and years and years left for people to come and live and slowly progress outward. But right now we should focus on those major centers and focus on those aspects where you're going to put the people, not just keep spreading the people out over the municipality. And the other part of this is the visionary part, especially with the uptown one. That's the one I'm really waiting for, is the actual vision part, to create a vision to see what's going to go. Like Councillor Wergelin said with pre-zoning. Yeah, start saying this is what we want here, this is what we want there. Don't just sort of let them come here by here. Oh yeah, we want another car lot here, we want another car lot there. That's not going to achieve the goals of actually creating your urban centers with housing and shops. So basically my thing is, when you look at this, planning for the region is to actually start focusing where the people are going to go. And then the local area plans are all part of it. But right now I think you should start focusing where the people need to go.
Mark Adams, 3925 Ansel Road. I just want to touch briefly on transit in general, and we talk about, there's always lots of concerns about, a lot of people love to say, oh, LRT is the answer to everything. I grew up here, but I lived and worked in Vancouver 15 years. SkyTrain it's a wonderful thing at times. You need it in a big city. It's got problems. It goes down regularly. People fall off the tracks and die. People evade fares. It's not a panacea. It uses up a lot of road space. As a lot of people have pointed out, SOVs, single occupancy vehicles, about 80% of our seating capacity is unused. We could use a ride-share system, something like Uber, but instead of for profit, it would be for cost recovery, so we wouldn't run afoul of the provincial regulations. Maybe we could have free criminal record checks if you agree to sign up for 1 year. You can make it simple. You come on your screen, you say, I'm going to Uptown, I live in downtown. Anyone want to go? 5 minutes, here we go. I think there's a lot of things we could do, not just on transit, but a lot of issues, and I'm hoping that the council will continue, and I'm very grateful that you have added the public forum to additional opportunities to speak. Thank you. So yeah, I'm hoping to see a lot more of that in the future. I think there's a lot of brilliant ideas out in the community, and I think a lot of them are going to come forward. Thanks again.
Thank you. Anyone else to address council on this one? All right, seeing none, I have Mayor Atwell and then Councilor Plant.
Great, thank you, Chair. I've got a number of questions from staff that came forward, but I think I'll start with the question that came from the President of the World Local Association, the disparity between the number of active developments that was listed in the report here, and the ones that she was reporting in the neighborhood. Which one? That's my first question.
To the mayor, the numbers, I think there may have been some confusion. The numbers are per hectare. So the number of developments per hectare it's not a total number, but a number per hectare. So there may have been some confusion there. And it is a 5-year snapshot of data. I believe from 2010 to 2014. So there might have been some of those developments she referenced that weren't caught in there.
Great, thank you for that. Thank you for that clarification. A follow-up question. In option number 3, there are gaps between the times. For example, if you look at Cordova Bay, it's year 6 and 7. There's a gap, and then Cadbury afterwards is year 8 and 9. But in option 1, they're blocked together. What's the difference between those two? Why are there the gaps?
To the mayor, it is a generalized work plan, so I think some of that is to allow for preparation in and around the official community plan development, which would coincide with that development, and largely probably require more staff resources. It is just a generalized timeline and provides a rough indication of the timing of the plans. But part of the reason for the gaps that you see there is for the official community plan.
Thank you for that. Next question is, I'm assuming that your one is 2016?
To the mayor, I guess depending when council gives us direction to
Sure.
begin.
Okay, so let's assume it's 2016, so that would mean we'd be doing the official community plan in year 2023, I think I had that. But as far as I can recall, our community plan was last updated in 2008, it's been done every 10 years. So if that's the case, we'd be pushing it out beyond that typical timeline, or do I have that wrong?
It used to be mandated in the local government act that it had to be done every 10 years. It's no longer mandated for a particular time frame. So best practice is to go through it, local area plan updates, key issues, and then come back and look at the plan. If there was something significant that happened midstream, I think it would be appropriate to then reconsider it at the council level of whether or not we want to interject an update of the OCP because of some very unique situation, which we can accommodate in this timeline.
Okay, thank you for that. Next question, given that so many local area plans are out of date, how have you selected which of the local area plans are going to be beyond the community plan update? For option 1, and which is Quadra, North Quadra, Royal Oak, Blenkinsop following that. In option 2, it's Rural Section, Blenkinsop following. And in option 3, it's Gordon and Tilicum. How is that selected?
The overall selection is sequences based on the criteria, so each of the plans was put in order and the official community plan was slotted in there, so there's not a clear relationship between the official community plan and the local area plan. Presumably, if you had a new official community plan, you may want to prioritize your local area plans differently, but this is based on the idea of basically running through each of those local area plans that are in the priority order. Proceeding on that basis, but as I mentioned, you could potentially reprioritize after a official community plan or any time midstream along here.
Okay, thank you. Another question if I can? It's on topic. All the plans here, all the options here, now there's a recommendation for one of the options, but all the options here seem to be predicated on the same number of resources being applied. I'm not looking at option 4 that's meeting the community desire to shrink the whole thing down to 6 years or 7 years. Obviously that's tied to council decision and budgeting and staff and all that kind of stuff. There have been, pre-election, current, it'll continue, I think, to speed up this process, to either find best practices by serving other communities, looking for something innovative from the planning sector to bring it in. With it so serialized here, I think we can expect at the end of this process to be in it again and again and again. Given that development is happening all over Saanich simultaneously, and we have these dates in here. Is there the possibility of going back and looking at developing an option 4 that could do this in a quicker time frame, that could lay out for us more than just say, well, we'd like to have 2 more planners, or we'd like to engage 2 more consultants, or we'd like to double our budget on that?
What we've brought forward is absolutely that. It's working with the existing resources. If council sees fit and wishes to direct resources, we would request that you let us know which area, and we would certainly come back with a modified work plan addressing that. If you want more emphasis on local area plans, depending on the resources that we were to gain, we certainly could accelerate that program. I certainly do take the community's comments, and particularly Mr. Rob Wixom's comments, to heart. I think every planner has done actually processes where we've engaged the community on a full range from absolute 1 degree where they're almost doing the plan to where we as staff provide a great degree of support. There is still a need for staff input, part of the stakeholder group. There's benefits, just as there's benefits working with all of the stakeholders and letting them do a large part of it. Some neighborhood associations won't be able to achieve that. I mean, it's a robust neighborhood association we're talking about with Gorge Tilicum. So if that's what council wishes to explore, by all means, let us know the general directions and we would come back with a revised option 4, or an option 4.
Okay, Thank you for that. I've got a few more percolating, but I'll give up the floor for somebody else.
Thank you. I meant to ask Mr. Wixon's question about the process before I went back to council, and he had asked, does this go to public hearing, or what happens from here? So if you could elaborate on that for us, I'd be grateful.
We hadn't planned, I mean, there's not a formal process that's required for this to go to public hearing. Given that input is provided at this evening's meeting, if council feels that there should be more or additional input, we could bring it back to committee of whole on a subsequent evening with option 4 or other updates that council would like information on.
Thank you. So we'll be looking for some discussion from council on steps from here. Councillor Plant is next, and then I see Councillor Darvin.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I won't be moving any recommendation at this point, and I'm hesitant to do so in light of what I've heard from the public. I also struggle with the fact that this is going to take 12 or 13 years to address things, and the fact that we've heard repeatedly we want that to happen quicker. So the compromise that I can't help but wonder we have to consider is how thorough of an update are we going to do. And Mr. Schmuck, representing Quadra Cedar Hill, recommended that potentially it is just a census and update and thinner than thicker update. So that might be the compromise, because certainly adding more staff, I mean, we're going to talk about that in a few minutes, is probably when we're going to come to budget time, of course. So I almost am tempted, as Mr. Mayor has suggested, to see if there's an option 4 that could come back that did provide the compromise of speed, but obviously we have to acknowledge the speed is coming. It's going to be at a cost.